Welcome to Burning Bright, a weekly podcast presenting poetry and prose from Passenger. In 1982, November 13th was Veterans Day, and that was the day the Vietnam War Veterans Memorial was dedicated. According to the Department of Defense's website, it's the most visited memorial on the National Mall in Washington. The most prominent feature on the 2-acre site is a massive wall that lists the names of the more than 58,000 servicemen and women who lost their lives during the Vietnam War. On this episode of Burning Bright, 5 pieces about war and veterans. Judith Slater was 7 when World War II ended. She said, "We did not get a daily paper or listen to nightly news. My awareness that our soldiers were being killed came during infrequent visits to my grandparents." Here's her poem, Personal History. When I shocked a college friend with my ignorance about the war, I tried to explain my small town. The friend's father helped liberate Buchenwald. My father, too old for the draft, volunteered for civil defense, bringing back stories. A report of enemy submarines that turned out to be the Goodyear blimp. For kids, helping the war effort involved making foil balls from gum wrappers and flattening tin cans. I sat beside my grandfather when he tuned his Philco to the nightly news about battles in places that sounded like melodies. Singapore, Okinawa, Corregidor, Saipan. Then I'd try to cheer him by picking out tunes from sheet music about love and laughter, and peace ever after. Tomorrow, when the world is free. Judith Slater's poem, Personal History, from Passenger, issue 71. This next poem is also about a child who lives through a war, but in this case, the war was much closer. My Mother's Oranges, Winifred Hughes. A little girl in England after the war ate 27 small oranges from a wooden crate that had found its way to her parents' door amid the loss and the aftermath. After the years of drinking blue milk and no butter, she couldn't stop eating until she was sick, couldn't stop tearing the bittersweet fruit that the animal inside her instinctively devoured. My Mother's Oranges, Winifred Hughes, from her book, The Village of New Ghosts. James McGrath worked for the U.S. State Department as a poet-artist-in-residence in Yemen and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Here's a war veteran poem he wrote, My Winter Soldier. My brother played drums in his high school band. He sang Bacharach songs to Fatima down the road. He tickled my mother with a peacock feather. He laughed at my 4th-grade elephant jokes. He teased Dad about his bright ties. My brother came home last week from Iraq. He wore a piece of shrapnel from his shoulder on a chain around his neck. He had a prosthetic arm with 5 plastic fingers and a white glove. He called Dad a motherfucker because he wore a tie. He said he had shot elephants and peacocks in the Baghdad Zoo for target practice with his buddies. He said Fatima was just another stupid Haji. He sold his drums on eBay. Last night at dinner, he told us how they poured gasoline on a library in Fallujah, shooting into the shadows until they ran red. How the books burned. Even Rumi couldn't escape the flames. He cried in his room all night, tossed grenades of 4-letter words into the dark. This morning, he never came down to breakfast. My Winter Soldier, James McGrath. James was the 2015 Passenger poet. Michael Miller served 4 years as a Marine. Here's a poem titled Character from his book, The Solitude of Memory. Before the sniper fired, his face was handsome. Now, his wife says, it has character, as she kisses the scar. The bullet came out of the rocks, and Ortiz, the cigarette between his lips, went rigid when it entered his temple, came out his ear, and slashed Eric's cheek. He buried his purple heart beneath the pear tree in the garden, where he smokes after dinner, for Robert Ortiz. Michael Miller's poem Character. We'll end with another of Michael's poems, Comrades. Something inside him winced at the word Vietnam, where he kissed a bar girl for luck before every patrol. Ambushes, firefights, the bodies of comrades in bloody pieces. On his forearm, the tattoo, Death before dishonor. Fishing and hunting in the Blue Ridge Mountains were his medication. Whiskey on the porch with Johnny Cash, singing as he dozed. 2 marriages failed before solitude became his trusted comrade. Michael Miller's poem Comrades, also from his book The Solitude of Memory. I said earlier that 58,000 Americans died in Vietnam, but that was less than 1/10 of the number that died during the American Civil War. 620,000 Americans, 10 times the number that died in Vietnam. Reminds me of that old line attributed to George Carlin. Bombing for peace is like screwing for virginity. It was George Carlin, he didn't use the word screwing. To buy Michael Miller's book, The Solitude of Memory, Winifred Owen's brand spankin' new book, The Village of New Ghosts, subscribe to or learn more about Passenger and its commitment to writers over 50, go to PassegerBooks.com. You can download Burning Bright from Spotify, Apple and Google Podcasts, and various other podcast apps. Passenger offers a 25% discount on the books and journal issues featured here on Burning Bright. Visit our website to see what's on sale this week. For Kendra, Mary, Christine, Roseanne, and the rest of the Passenger staff, I'm John Shore.